Whoo boy, we got two dangerous women linking up, huh? This is gonna be interesting. Let's check it
Site
out.
builder. The fast.
Actually, I first did an open records. And they
All
said
right, so
no.
they're going back
So
and
then I
forth. That
subpoenaed
was really interesting, actually. We got to see how the original text messages between the divorce attorney for Nathan Wade and also his former law business partner was texting with this attorney for Trump co-defendant, Ashley Merchant. And so now that we get to see when they were opened, what dates they were sent, I mean, it's all out there and easy to understand. Senior correspondent Jonathan Seri is at the Georgia State Capitol in Atlanta. He's been watching, as we have been, and monitoring since the hearing began. Jonathan, what can you tell us that specifically stands out at this point to you?
Yeah, well, this Senate committee hearing is learning more details about what defense attorney Ashley Merchant says she was able to learn about the romantic relationship between District Attorney Fani Willis and Nathan Wade, her special prosecutor in the Georgia election interference case. Let's listen to some highlights.
He said that they met at a judicial conference before. He was very specific that it was before she became DA, because that was one of the things that.
Guys, this is a prime example of why you should never, ever, there's a saying. There's a saying, and excuse my French, but there's a saying that's you should never, let's just say you should never crap where you eat. And basically it means you shouldn't really, or you should avoid, if you can, hooking up with people in the work environment, right? I'm not saying that you should never do it. I'm saying that that's the saying. The saying stems from the fact that it can get messy. And when you're dealing, if things go bad, then things can get bad. But not just that, but depending on the type of job you have, it can also be a problem. It can be a problem. And like, say, for instance, if you're an HR employee, right? And you're hooking up with one of the employees. Well, now there's a conflict. And so if it's one thing if it's two employees fraternizing. Like, just if y'all two people in the warehouse and y'all just hooking up or whatever like that, as long as y'all don't cause problems in the workplace, most jobs really, they not really tripping off of that. Or it's just not their business, you know what I mean? But go back to the example. If you're an HR and one of the employees, well, guess what? Now that presents a conflict of interest, because now you might give that employee special treatment. You might be able to give that employee information on other employees that they shouldn't be knowing. It's so many things that you can go down. What if you what if a manager was hooking up with an employee? You know what I mean? Those types of things, I mean, they're generally frowned upon. And usually you got to let your job know about that kind of thing. But it's just, I just hate to hear people just acting like this is no big deal. like it's a big deal. And I understand that they might feel like it's bad because it is invasive. Like, I'm just sitting here listening to this and just thinking like, wow, like so many people are really in their relationship, and the truth of the matter is, as much as people would like to label it messy, it's just what it is. It's what it is. So I mean,
He couldn't remember when the judicial conference was, but he knew that it was before she became DA. And he told me, they met at hotels. He would go to her place. And I remember him saying, you need to find her bestie who they had a falling out. That's the person whose condo it was that they would meet at.
Ashley Merchant is an attorney representing former Trump campaign aide Mike Roman. Roman, who was a co-defendant of the former president, had filed a motion with Merchant.
Terrence Bradley told her and said, go find her friend that she fell out with. They was always going to her. Jesus, but he's bad.
Have DA Willis
Friends like him, who needs enemies?
removed from the case. A judge is expected to rule on that by mid-March. Now, the committee chairman today asked Merchant whether she had reason to believe that Willis or Nathan Wade were coordinating with the Biden White House over the course of the Trump investigation. Listen.
Open records for the White House access. And we had records that Ms. Willis and the mayor of Atlanta were at meeting with the vice president.
Fani Willis and Nathan Wade have testified that they did not become romantically involved until after she hired him to help investigate the Trump case in November of 2021. But as you heard from Ashley Merchant's testimony earlier today, the defense is alleging that the romance started much earlier than that. Harris?
So, Jonathan, I just want to get this straight because I've got a former U.S. attorney coming up next, and I want to make sure I have my facts straight. What was the deal with the meeting at the White House? Did you say the Vice President, Kamala Harris?
Said that several people were meeting at the White House. Of course, the nature of that meeting was not expressed. It could have been some Democratic event or a social event.
Who was in it?
The implication that they're trying to get at was that allegedly there may have been some coordination with this case, but they don't have any hard evidence.
I understand what he's saying. You know, you got to tiptoe around that kind of stuff, but like I've said many times, I follow Occam's razor. If it walks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, then God dog it might be a duck. I'm just saying.
Evidence of that at this point, because the receipts, and this is something that Ashley Merchant pointed out, that Nathan Wade submitted are very vague. They just mention that he met with White House counsel or met with White House, but doesn't go into any detail as to what the meetings were.
Okay, I got it. Thank you, Jonathan Seri. Great reporting.
Certainly.
Brett Tolman, former U.S. attorney and former Senate Judiciary Committee counsel. I do want to drill down just a second on the White House meeting and how that comes into play. Is that purely politics, or as a former U.S. attorney, is it something that you look at as information? What?
Well, I will tell you, I think you're right to be asking questions about it. And here's what the public needs to understand. There's really no circumstance for the White House counsel or anyone in the White House to go anywhere near this if their goal is to make sure that it is an objective review of potential criminal activity of an opponent, of a political opponent. If, however, you are coordinating and you're wanting to take down a political opponent, that's temptation that the White House, I think, probably gave into, was to have conversations and look at the 4 different criminal cases. All of them have access, and we're learning that most of them at this point have had conversations with the White House just prior to charges being brought. That's not coincidence. That's coordination.
Yeah. All right. I wanted to hit that because that seems to be a bigger issue now that we're hearing about it in a different venue. A state Senate committee, special committee hearing. And now you get into what you just pointed out, 2 men battling it out. And it takes me back to what Donald Trump said days ago.
And I just want to say, like, it's just crazy because when you look at the hypocrisy, when you look at the hypocrisy, and it's just sad. Like, this is literally why I have such a big, huge problem with the left, because at the end of the day, as much as they love to accuse conservatives and Republicans and Donald Trump and everyone of taking away democracy and doing all these things, that's exactly what they're doing. These people are operating like some secret society. They are operating like a cabal. And you know what I mean? Nobody's gonna say anything or do anything because they just want to see Donald Trump go down. It's crazy, man. It's crazy.